There's also this thing called onPost. And we got to talk about what get and post are. Do you know what those are? Or how they differ? Yeah, that was the original design. They're used a little different in modern times. Okay, I need to talk about the difference between get and post. Other than that, I feel like I've walked through the server-side written in Java code part of this assignment. So let me close that down. There's another side to this assignment, which is page.html. This is the JavaScript client side to this program, and it's written in a totally different language. And this side is 62 total lines of code. Even smaller than the server, not a lot of code, you can handle it. But it's JavaScript, which is the language you're less comfortable with at this point. And yeah, well, here it is. Let's go back and talk about what the program does before we walk through it. So Java main. I run this. Okay, do you see that at this point a lot has already happened? I started up a web server, it sat by the phone, it listened for a connection, it kicked off the web browser, pointed the web browser to this URL. The web browser said to the server, get space page.html space http 1.1, and here's a bunch of private information, carriage return new line. And the server received that message. And then the server parsed that message and found inside of the headers the get line and the carriage return new line. And then it created a response, and it said HTTP 1.1 200 OK. And it said, here it comes, and here's how long it's going to be. And then the server sent that file, and it was all of this source code for this web page. And then the client, the web browser, received it and parsed it and rendered it and showed it to you. All that happens every single time you type a URL into your bar. Okay. There's a program running, and as it happens, when I say send, something happens. Let's figure out where that is. Send. Send, send. Okay. Here's the HTML code that generates a button named send. And you see here it says onClick equals say hi. Say hi is a JavaScript function which I have written right here. And this JavaScript function will be called when you press send. Okay? It will then let message equal document.getElement by ID my message. Do you know what getElement by ID does? No, that's okay. Here's what it does. This is a web page. Did you know that the web page is organized into a hierarchy of objects? This is called the document object model. We can look at it if we go to our web developer. What's it called? I think it's called Inspector. And if we look at the inspector, you can see that at the highest level, the web page is just this HTML tag. And if I move my mouse over it, it highlights the whole darn HTML file. Well, inside of that is a body. And inside of the body, there's an image. See how if I put my mouse over image, it highlights just that image? And inside of that, there's a basic return, which is right there at those coordinates. And then there's this text message. A web page is built up of a whole bunch of objects. It's basically a hierarchy of objects in memory. This is called a document object model. There's a bunch of objects in memory. There are many kinds of document object models. There are HTML DOMs. There are JSON DOMs. When you made a JSON file, it was also a DOM, a bunch of objects that represented a document. In HTML, it's a bunch of objects that represent a document. Okay. When you say get element by ID, it's saying one of these elements, one of these objects in the DOM, has an ID named my message. See how right here there's a text window with an ID of my message? So that line that says get element by ID my message is basically saying, hey, get me, go away, inspector, find me the object that represents this text field. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I can get the text out of it. Because I take that message and I convert it to a JSON blob, and then I call this function here called HTTP post, which is a little bit different than HTTP get. The general idea of get is for the web browser to request something from the server. It says, hey server, give me this page. Hey server, give me this file. That's what you use get for. Post is for sending a message to the server. So here I'm saying, hey, send to this web page my JSON blob, which has been turned into a string and contains this message, the value of what's in this file, or what's in this field. So when I press the send message, JavaScript sends the message to the server. The server over here received the message and parsed it and created a response and sent the response back to JavaScript. And this is an important distinction. It's talking to JavaScript. That's not the same thing as talking to Firefox. You get the difference? Okay, so when Firefox said get page.html, Firefox was talking to the server, and then your server sent the web page to it, and then JavaScript started running the script inside of your HTML file, and then your JavaScript started talking to the same server and said, hey server, give me, or no, post, here's a message, it's hi. And then the server replies, thanks for the spiffy message. By the way, my favorite number is -1. That's an garbage example, by the way. And then JavaScript received it, and that's what's happening. So the server is talking to two clients. One client is Firefox. One client is JavaScript. And one easy way to tell the difference is Firefox is always going to use get to request its pages. JavaScript is going to be using post in this assignment. It can use get too, but as far as this assignment is concerned, JavaScript will be the only one talking to the server by saying post. Firefox or Internet Explorer or Safari or whatever browser you use will be the one saying get. So when you look at this text spew and it says post, that was the JavaScript talking, and it was sending to me message hi, favorite number equals 3.14159. The server will do whatever you program the server to do. So you are in total control of both ends of the program in this assignment. You are writing the server and you're writing the client. So yeah, when the client sends this message, the server, right here in Java, right here in this main loop, nope, that's not the main loop. This is the main loop. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Where's the, there. Right here is where the server is waiting for the phone to ring. So after the server has already sent the web page to your web browser, then JavaScript calls, and JavaScript says, hi, this is JavaScript. I'd like to tell you a message. My favorite number is 3.1415. So the server picks up the phone and is now talking to JavaScript. How do you know who's calling? Is it the web browser or the JavaScript? Well, if there's a line in the header that starts with get space, it's the web browser talking. If there's a line that starts with post space, it's the JavaScript running inside of the web browser talking. And when it's the post space, then your server is going to respond differently and send JavaScript whatever it requests. Does that make sense? Did I answer the question? Or did I miss it? Essentially, your server is just going to sit there and it's going to pick up the phone and immediately respond to whatever it was, the message was, and then hang up again. And your server is kind of a rapid response type server. It's not going to sit there having a long conversation. It's going to pick up the phone. What do you need? Okay, here you go. Bye. Wait by the phone, wait by the phone, wait by the phone. Oh, it rang. Pick up the phone. Hi, what do you need? Okay, here it is. Bye. Hang up the phone. And that's the general structure of your program, is the server is just always sitting there waiting to accept a call. And as soon as it gets a call, it will send the client whatever it needs. And your job in this is, your job on the server side is just to give the client whatever it requests. Your job on the client side is to make the program that you're instructed in these instructions. Yeah, so about that. The biggest problem with this assignment is students get overwhelmed by the pieces. They're like, there's 5 different parts and they all have to talk to each other. And yep, that's true. So don't let me say that's not. But I think as you start doing it, you'll realize that it's actually not as complicated as you think. There's really only the web browser, the server, and JavaScript. These 3 are talking to each other. And the web browser is already written and you don't get to touch it. So that part's done. You just have these 2 pieces, JavaScript and server, and you just got to make them talk to each other. 2 is definitely more than 1. This is more than you've ever programmed before. But all you have to do is just make them talk to each other properly. I've already written the code that does the exchange, so it's already working. You just have to utilize it to make them talk to each other. And here's what you're actually going to do for your assignment. So there's a text box, and you'll send messages and they'll populate that text box. So it basically makes a chat window. And you could connect with multiple web pages and they'll all talk to the server, and they're basically chatting with each other. And if you can chat with each other, then you can also send messages that say, hey, move Mario to the right 2 pixels. Move Mario to the left 2 pixels. And it can respond by actually doing that. And so we're going to do that. That's about it. You don't have to turn this into a game. They don't have to actually interact with each other. They don't have to do anything. It's just that you have to be able from one web page, push the right arrow to move Mario to the right, and then switch to the other web page, and you'll see that Mario has moved to the right. Does that make sense? If you can make that work, I'm content that you could make anything work on an MMO, and that's all you need to do. So it's certainly more complicated than anything you've done before, but I don't think it's that complicated. There's 2 parts, and you have to make them talk to each other. Yeah, they're written in different languages, and yeah, there will be a little bit of, you will have to understand what's going on, so you will have to kind of think through what it's doing.